Hello, and thank you for taking the time to learn more about MindTap, the online solution for career and technical education courses. In this video, we're going to do a quick tour of MindTap for Century 21 Accounting Advanced, the 11th edition. Right now, you are looking at the MindTap interface. On the left-hand side, you see what we call the learning path, which is organized by the structure of the textbook. If you had a copy of Century 21 Accounting Advanced next to you, you'd see that there are 5 parts, and that underneath each part, by the end of the course, you've got 24 chapters. Now, on the right-hand side, this is where the teacher would see any recent activity scores once students have started completing activities. You can open your gradebook from here, or from the Progress app on the right-hand app dock. Let's take a look at what you'll find in the first part of Century 21 Accounting Advanced. Each part and chapter are organized very similarly. When we open part 1, you'll see that there is a part introductory reading, which is a business example. We've got 4 chapters, and after chapter 4, students are working on a reinforcement activity, as well as a part test with your versions for test A and test B. Now, if you've used the print working papers in the past, all of those working papers are now online in the online working papers found within the chapters themselves. So let's open up chapter 1. Under chapter 1, you'll see that the readings are broken up by lesson, and then they're followed by an end of lesson review folder, which includes your online working paper assignments, your work together and on your own, as well as audit your understanding. Let's take a look at an ebook reading. Now, if you haven't seen MindTap before, the MindTap e-reader is much more interactive than a flat ebook. You can always get quickly to a hyperlinked table of contents. Any of the images, figures, or graphs that would be in your print text will also be here in the online version of the ebook, and any key terms are automatically hyperlinked with a definition. You'll also find that all of these key terms exist as flashcards in the flashcard app on the right-hand app dock. If I open this up, students would be able to study flashcards online, but they can also study them for any chapter that they wish on their smartphones, and they could actually do that offline. This also allows students to be able to create their own cards, shuffle cards, decide whether they want to view the definition first or the term, and they can even print that current deck. I'm going to hop back into the e-reader. Now from here, you'll also notice that the ebook can be read out loud to students by clicking the little Read Speak button. They can increase the font size, add bookmarks to pages, or even print pages. Students can also annotate by highlighting text. That opens this highlight text window where they can highlight in any of 4 different colors. Teachers have a 5th color, which is orange. If I highlight something in orange, then that is going to be highlighted in all of my students' ebooks as they come through and read this. So if there's something that's really important, then I can pre-highlight that for them to help direct their reading. Likewise, as a teacher, you can also add notes. And if you want to share that with students, you can click the share button, click save, and now that note has turned orange and it will exist in the margin for any students coming through and reading this portion of the ebook. You also have the ability as the teacher to add any kind of content, media assets, worksheets, PowerPoint files, anything from your computer into the ebook itself by clicking this pencil tool. Anywhere that a plus sign is now available, I can add a resource. I can pull any kind of file from my Google Drive or my Microsoft OneDrive. I can add web link activities, an RSS feed for a current listing of current news articles, and I can even add YouTube videos. Let's see what this looks like. So when I open YouTube, I am not leaving MindTap. I can search for my video here. I can find the video that I want, click continue, And then it's going to pull in the source information. I can preview that video to make sure it's the correct one I want. I can add some text before or after to direct my students for what I want them to do. And I can click continue. That video has now been added within the ebook itself so students can watch this as they're reading. I'm going to pop out of the ebook now. So students would read their first lesson, then they would have an Audit Your Understanding assignment. This starts out as practice. Teachers can edit this to make it a graded assignment. I can show you how to do that. But Audit Your Understanding, many of these are short response questions. So when students submit this, it would tell them that they're waiting for it to be graded. From the teacher's point of view, you could go into your grade book, click on that student and that assignment to see their submissions and give them a grade. In the Work Together and On Your Own, these will have both practice mode as well as non-practice mode. Let me go into a chapter where I haven't edited this yet. So here, you'll see that there will be, for Work Together is always a practice mode, which means the teachers can see what the students have completed, but it's not going to automatically flow to your grade book. That's because this is meant to be done together as a class. So when I open up the practice mode for the Work Together assignment, students will be working, this will mimic their print working papers. And you can see here, they would have instructions that they can display in a separate window by clicking this button here. The instructions will open the full ebook, which is where those instructions reside. Okay? So they would have their instructions here on the same screen. They can work within this, and I'm probably going to do this wrong, but they can work within here, enter in their answers. If I try to type something that clearly should not go here, like I'm trying to type letters right now, it won't even let me click that. If I also enter something that is clearly incorrect, that isn't an option, sometimes it will also highlight that in red to give students immediate feedback. Now notice here that if your instructions are blocking some of this, there is a horizontal scroll so that students can see the full portion of the assignment that they're working on while they have their instructions to the right. Once I'm working in this, because it's practice, I would be able to, first of all, if I came in here and didn't enter anything, I could click the print button. That would allow this to print out a version of this assignment that could be completed on paper. I could reset the assignment. That means I just want to try over again. I want it to all be blank. So you'll see that I now can print, and this will print a version that students would be able to complete by hand. Once I enter something, I can click the check my answer. Now this is only for practice assignments. I can check my answer. It will show me everything that I got wrong and what I got right with these green checks and red X's. If I want to see exactly why I got something wrong, I can click show answer. That will give me an answer window here, which will show me what those solutions are. And then if I want to be able to retry, I can now click retry and try again. Notice that when students have the answers open, they can't retry at the same time. You have to close that window and then click retry. So I could try this again, submit, yes, and now this will be submitted to my teacher. Now this is allowed to be taken an unlimited amount of times. As the teacher, you can change that as well. But because it's allowed to be taken a unlimited amount of times, teachers and students, as they submit multiple attempts, would be able to see the score of each attempt, how long each attempt took them, and you would be able to see that history of what their scores were and how long it took them to do each attempt. I'm going to close out of this assignment. You'll notice that for On Your Own, teachers have this in two different ways. Either you would want students to be able to see that solution, or if you really want this to be a grade where they have to do it completely on their own, you might not want them to be able to have that show answer option. That's why there's two versions available. If I said, I only want them to use the non-practice mode, then I would be able to click edit, and I can hide the mode I don't want to use. So in this case, I'm going to say I'm going to hide that one. I want students to complete this one. While we're in the edit mode, you would turn this edit toggle on as a teacher to edit anything. You can hide anything, move them around. I'm going to click edit on this assignment, and you can see that you can change the description as well as add availability or due dates. I could actually make this available down to the minute. If I only want students to be able to complete this during our class time, I could certainly do that. Now, to change how this is delivered to the student, I would click Edit Activity Options. Now I can see I could change the activity name, the description, and right now it is graded, which means it's going to count as part of the student's grade. I could make that false. I can change the max score. I can change how many times the students can take this assignment and what the grading strategy is. So was it the last time they submitted, the average of all of their submissions, or their best submission overall? I could change this, click update, and then I've changed those options for my students. I'm going to click out of this. Let's take a look at what it looks like when it's not a practice activity. So in this version, students will not have the show answer option. So they can still print out a version before they've completed anything. I'm going to make some selections here. And I can still reset it, but you can see I just have submit. I don't have that check my answer, and I don't have that show answer option. So I would submit this. I'll go right to my summary report. It'll tell me my grade, how much time it took me. And then if I click out of this assignment, because this is set to unlimited, I could come in and try it again. So you'll find those with each reading. Students have a reading and then they have their work together and on your own. Once they've gone through the lessons in that chapter, there will be a study hall folder. This will include a look at accounting software, the chapter summary, chapter flashcards will also live here, and then you'll have practice activities for a vocab review as well as the study guide. So the study guides mimic the actual chapter test. These are set up as practice, so students can just use them to practice. You could change this to graded using those edit buttons if you'd like. After the study hall folder, students have Apply Your Understanding. This is where all of the end of chapter application, mastery, and challenge, as well as source document problems live. These work in a very similar way to the online working papers that you saw for work together and on your own. You'll see that for each problem there is a practice mode, which again means that students could check their answer and see that answer, as well as the non-practice mode. Again, you could make both of these available to your students, or you could decide which ones you want to assign and which ones you want to hide. Students will also have the reading for their 21st century skills, auditing for errors, as well as their analysis case study reading. And then this homework Dropbox, if you are having students upload any files to you, so if you want to use some of the QuickBooks files or the Sage 50 files for any of these problems from our Instructor Companion site, and you want students to upload, or if you want them to upload a document for their 21st century skills, whatever it might be, you can have students submit those to you so that you can view them and grade them in MindTap through this Dropbox feature. So you can see you might be using any of these activities. Students could choose their file from their machine and upload it for grading. At the end of every single chapter, you will find the chapter test. As always, we have a version A and a version B of that test. So again, you could decide, you could hide one of these from students, or you could have half the class take A and half the class take B. So this course is loaded with a whole lot of information. Note that in your online working paper assignments for your application mastery and challenge, your work together and your on your own, your source documents, these have actually been updated so that it will save as students work on them. So for instance, if you're in part 1 and you're ending with chapter 4 and now students are working on a reinforcement activity, which may take a lot of time, that might take more than one class period because it's a multi-part assignment that students are working on. When students are working in here, this one has 7 parts to that assignment. If they're not going to submit it as they're in it for that very first time, they can always click save. So let me just do this. I'm going to enter something. I can always click save. That means it will be saved and I can leave the assignment and come back tomorrow. But let's say that as the teacher, you want to be able to see at the end of the day the students' progress. You won't see their progress until students have clicked submit. So at the end of the day, because I'm allowing students to have multiple attempts on this, as long as it's set up for multiple attempts, which all of these are, I would have my students submit the assignment. That means that as the teacher, I'll be able to go into the Progress app and see what the students have done. And then when the student comes in and they want to try this again, it will actually save their previous work. So it's telling me this is my second attempt. And even though it's a new attempt, it will actually save my work from the prior day. So this was a feedback that we got from a whole lot of teachers. We wanted students to be able to try it again, but not have to go through the whole problem if maybe I just made an error on part 7, right? But then you'd have to go through this whole giant problem again. Now, students can save, they can submit, teachers can see their feedback, and then the following day, they can try a second attempt, and that attempt will allow them to leave off from where they were before. Note, if the student wanted to just start over and have everything returned to a blank view, they could click reset. Okay, that was a quick tour of MindTap for Century 21 Accounting Advanced. There's a whole lot in here. If you have any other questions, you can always go back into your NGL Sync portal and access the Instructor Companion site. There is a comprehensive user's guide to this MindTap that you will find right here under Century 21 Accounting Advanced MindTap User Guide. There are also helpful videos here that are shorter videos. If you still have questions, you can always contact us at ngl.cengage.com/CTE.